In the heart of Chicago, where the Willis Tower pierces the sky, two young twins, Ethan and Eli, sit on weathered steps, sharing a single, bruised apple. Their laughter, pure and unburdened, cuts through the city's relentless hum, a fleeting melody amid the chaos of commuters and concrete. Unbeknownst to them, their simple act of splitting the fruit evenly catches the eye of Victor Grayson, a real estate tycoon whose heart has long been armored by wealth and isolation. Grayson, hardened by years of deals and deadlines, pauses mid-stride, his polished shoes rooted to the pavement. Something in the twins' bond, a quiet resilience, a shared glance of trust, stirs a memory he can't place. As the wind carries their giggles across the plaza, a secret unravels. Their mother, Claire, was once a casualty of Grayson's corporate empire, her dreams crushed by a mistake he never noticed. This chance encounter, under the shadow of a towering skyline, sets the stage for a journey of redemption, where a tycoon's wealth meets a family's strength, and a single apple becomes the seed of a life-changing bond. What begins as a moment will rewrite their futures forever. Chicago's pulse throbbed under the Willis Tower's shadow, where glass and steel met the grit of the streets. On a crisp autumn morning, the plaza buzzed with briefcase-wielding commuters, their eyes fixed on screens or schedules, oblivious to the world beyond their stride. Amid this orchestrated chaos, two small figures sat on the chipped granite steps, unnoticed by the crowd. Ethan and Eli, 9-year-old twins with identical freckled faces, wore mismatched jackets too thin for the season's chill. Their sneakers, scuffed and fraying, bore the marks of countless city blocks. Between them lay a single apple, its skin bruised but polished with care, cradled in a napkin Ethan had tucked into his pocket. Ethan, the quieter of the two, held the apple, his fingers tracing its imperfections. "You take the bigger half," he said, voice soft but firm. Eli, his eyes bright under a faded baseball cap, shook his head. "Split it even," he insisted. Grinning, with a pocket knife, Ethan sliced the fruit precisely, handing Eli his share. They leaned closer, shoulders touching, and bit into the apple, savoring each tart bite as if it were a feast. Their laughter, light and unself-conscious, danced across the plaza, a contrast to the city's relentless rhythm. Across the street, Victor Grayson emerged from a sleek black car, his navy suit impeccable, his expression carved from years of boardroom battles. At 52, Grayson was a name whispered in Chicago's elite circles, a real estate magnate who turned dreams into skyscrapers but rarely paused to notice the lives beneath them. His days were a blur of contracts and calculations, his nights spent in a penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan, where silence was his only companion. Today, a rare errand brought him to the plaza, his phone pressed to his ear, discussing a multi-million-dollar deal. But as he crossed the street, the twins' laughter pierced his focus, pulling his gaze to the steps. Grayson slowed, his polished shoes clicking softer against the pavement. He saw the boys, their small forms dwarfed by the towering Willis, yet their presence somehow louder than the city's din. The way Ethan handed Eli the napkin, the way Eli's grin widened at his brother's precision, it was a scene of such unguarded connection that Grayson felt an unfamiliar tug in his chest. He slipped his phone into his pocket, the deal forgotten, and stood still, watching. For 20 years, he'd passed countless faces on these streets, vendors, protesters, tourists, without a second glance. But these boys, sharing a single apple with such care, were different. They weren't begging or shouting, they were simply existing. Their bond a quiet defiance of the city's indifference. "Excuse me," Grayson said, approaching with a hesitance foreign to his usual confidence. The twins looked up, their mouths full, apple juice glistening on their chins. Eli smiled first, crumbs on his lips. "Hi," he said brightly. Ethan, more cautious, scanned Grayson's face, checking for familiarity. "I'm not interrupting." "Am I?" Grayson added, adjusting his cufflinks as if preparing for a negotiation. "Just saw you here and wondered if you come often." Eli nodded. "It's our spot," he said. "Quiet, and the sun's nice." Ethan added, "Our place is a few blocks away, but we like it here." Their voices held no complaint, only a pride in their chosen refuge. And Grayson felt the first crack in his carefully built walls. The twins' act of splitting the apple, so deliberate and equitable, lingered in Victor Grayson's mind like a melody he couldn't shake. It wasn't just the act itself, but the precision of Ethan's knife and Eli's insistence on fairness were striking. It was the warmth that radiated from their shared moment. In a city where every interaction seemed transactional, their selflessness was a quiet rebellion, a flicker of light in Chicago's gray hustle. Grayson, whose life was measured in profit margins and square footage, found himself drawn to the steps, his usual detachment faltering. He approached, his shadow falling over the boys, and cleared his throat. Unaccustomed to such spontaneous engagement. "Hey, boys," he said, his voice softer than he intended. "Mind if I ask what makes this spot so special?" Ethan looked up, wiping juice from his chin. His eyes wary but curious. Eli, ever the talker, grinned. "It's like our secret base," he said. "No one bothers us, and we can see the whole city." Grayson nodded, crouching slightly, the cold stone seeping through his tailored trousers. "A good choice," he said, glancing at the Willis Tower's looming facade. "I'm Victor, by the way. And you are?" "I'm Eli," the brighter twin said, pointing to himself. "And that's Ethan. We're twins, but I'm older by 3 minutes." Ethan rolled his eyes but smiled, a silent agreement to his brother's theatrics. Grayson chuckled, a sound rare enough to surprise him. 3 minutes, huh? That's a big deal. Eli nodded solemnly, as if guarding a sacred truth. The ease of their exchange disarmed Grayson, who was used to conversations laced with agendas. He sat on the step beside them, ignoring the dust on his suit, and asked, "So, what's the story behind that apple? Not many kids share like that." Ethan shrugged, his voice steady. "Mom says sharing's how you make things last." Eli added, "We only had one today, so we split it. Tastes better that way." Grayson's brow lifted, intrigued by the wisdom wrapped in their casual tone. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and asked, "Your mom sounds smart. What's she like?" The twins exchanged a glance. A silent pact to share just enough. "She's the best," Eli said. "Works nights cleaning offices. Sometimes she's tired, but she always makes time for us." Ethan nodded. "She says the city's tough, but we're tougher." Grayson's chest tightened, a pang he couldn't name. He'd seen poverty before, on reports, in headlines, but hearing it from these boys, delivered with such matter-of-fact pride, was different. It was raw, unfiltered, like a mirror held to his own sterile existence. "And your dad?" he asked, cautious not to push too far. Ethan's gaze dropped to the napkin in his hands. "Not around," he said quietly. "Mom says it's who stays that matters." Eli picked at his shoelace, adding, "Grandpa's with us, though. He's sick, but we read to him." Makes him smile. The simplicity of their words, heavy with unspoken burdens, struck Grayson like a gust off Lake Michigan. He stood, brushing off his coat, but his mind was elsewhere, replaying their voices. "You've got a good thing here," he said, gesturing to the steps. "Mind if I stop by again?" Eli's grin returned. "Sure, but bring a better apple next time." Grayson laughed, the sound echoing in his ears as he walked away, already planning his return. Victor Grayson couldn't shake the twins' words as he navigated Chicago's crowded loop, their voices weaving through his thoughts like threads in a tapestry. Ethan's quiet resolve, Eli's bright defiance, they painted a picture of a family bound by love, not wealth. A stark contrast to his own solitary empire. The next day, he returned to the Willis Tower steps, a paper bag of fresh apples in hand, his usual urgency replaced by a need to understand. The twins were there, Ethan reading a tattered library book, Eli sketching a superhero on a scrap of paper. Their faces lit up at Grayson's approach, a warmth that felt undeserved yet grounding. "Thought I'd upgrade your apple game," Grayson said, handing them the bag. Eli peeked inside, eyes wide. "These are fancy." Ethan took one, inspecting it with a nod. "Thanks, Victor." They sat together, the city's rhythm fading as Grayson listened, hungry for more of their story. "You mentioned your mom works nights," he prompted gently. "What's that like for you?" Eli bit into an apple, juice dripping. "She's gone when we get home from school, so we help Grandpa. He's got lung stuff, needs a machine to breathe." Ethan closed his book, his voice steady but heavy. "Mom cleans offices downtown, then does laundry for folks during the day. She's saving for a better place, but it's slow." Grayson's jaw tightened, picturing a woman stretched thin by endless shifts, her dreams buried under necessity. "That's a lot for one person," he said, his tone careful. Eli nodded, unfazed. "She's tough. Says we're her reason to keep going." Ethan added, "We walk 15 blocks to save bus fare. Mom lets us ride if she gets a good tip." The twins' matter-of-fact delivery hit Grayson like a punch. He'd built towers that housed the offices their mother cleaned, yet her struggle was invisible to him until now. "And your grandfather?" he asked, leaning closer. Eli's smile faded. "He's in bed most days. We read him comics or tell him about school. He used to be a mechanic, fixed anything." Ethan's eyes softened. "Now we fix things for him. Like making sure his medicine's on time." The weight of their responsibilities, carried by such small shoulders, stirred something deep in Grayson, a mix of admiration and unease. He glanced at the Willis Tower, its glass reflecting his own success, and felt a disconnect. These boys lived in a world he'd never touched, yet their strength mirrored the steel of his buildings. "Your mom and grandpa sound like fighters," he said. Eli grinned. "Families like that. You hold each other up." Ethan nodded, adding, "Mom says love's the only thing you don't run out of." Grayson swallowed, the words landing like stones in his chest. His life, filled with luxury, lacked that unyielding bond. As the twins packed their things, Grayson stood, the apples untouched in his lap. "See you tomorrow?" he asked, almost pleading. Eli saluted playfully. "Only if you bring oranges." Ethan smirked, and they waved, disappearing into the crowd. Grayson lingered, the plaza's noise returning, but his focus stayed on the twins' words. Their family struggles, laid bare with such honesty, cracked open a door in his heart. One he hadn't known was locked. He knew he'd be back, not just for them, but for the truth they carried. Victor Grayson's penthouse overlooked Lake Michigan, its waves glinting under Chicago's twilight, but the view felt hollow. The twins' words, Ethan's quiet strength, Eli's buoyant hope, echoed in his mind, exposing the emptiness of his meticulously ordered life. He stood at his floor-to-ceiling windows, a glass of bourbon untouched, replaying the image of two boys sharing an apple on chip steps. Their bond, forged in scarcity, contrasted sharply with his wealth, which bought silence but not connection. For years, Grayson had measured success in dollars and deals, but the twins' resilience, their unyielding love for their family, made his achievements feel like shadows. The next morning, he returned to the Willis Tower steps, driven by a restlessness he couldn't name. Ethan and Eli were there, Eli balancing a thermos of soup, Ethan tying his brother's loose shoelace. "Victor," Eli called, waving. Grayson smiled, handing them a bag of oranges. "As requested," he said, settling beside them. The twins' chatter filled the air, Eli's tales of a school science project, Ethan's love for astronomy. But Grayson's thoughts drifted to their mother, Claire, and her endless grind. "How's your mom holding up?" he asked, peeling an orange. Ethan shrugged, his eyes on the fruit. "She's tired. Works till midnight, then up early for Grandpa," Eli added. "She hides it, but we see her counting coins for bills." Grayson's chest tightened, picturing a woman whose life was a tightrope, her every step weighed by love and duty. He thought of his own days, filled with boardroom victories, yet devoid of meaning. "You boys are her strength," he said, voice low. Eli grinned. "She says we're her stars." Ethan nodded. "We try to make it easier." Grayson's reflection deepened, the twins' words a mirror to his isolation. He built an empire, but for whom? His penthouse, with its imported marble and custom art, was a museum, not a home. No laughter echoed there, no shared apples or thermos of soup. The twins, despite their struggles, had a richness he lacked, a family that held each other up, as Eli had said. Grayson's mind flashed to his own childhood, brief moments with a brother lost to time, their connection buried under years of ambition. The twins' bond rekindled that ache, a reminder of what he'd traded for success. As they ate, Grayson asked, "What do you dream of when it's just you two?" Ethan's eyes lit up. "I want to study stars, maybe work at NASA." Eli laughed. "I'll build a superhero suit, save the city." Their dreams, so vivid despite their circumstances, struck Grayson as both brave and fragile. He saw himself at their age, dreaming of towers, not knowing they'd leave him so alone. "Those are big dreams," he said, his voice thick. "You'll get there." Eli tilted his head. "You think so, Victor?" Grayson nodded, surprised by his certainty. When the twins left, waving as they merged with the crowd, Grayson lingered, the orange peel in his hand a small relic of their time. The Willis Tower loomed, a symbol of his legacy, but it felt cold compared to the warmth of the twins' presence. Their resilience, their love, had planted a seed of doubt in his heart, urging him to seek something beyond wealth. He didn't know how. but he knew he couldn't walk away. Victor Grayson's visits to the Willis Tower steps became a ritual, each morning pulling him from his sterile penthouse to the chipped granite where Ethan and Eli waited. The twins greeted him with grins, their presence a balm to his growing discontent. He brought snacks, bagels, fruit, juice, small offerings that felt inadequate against their struggles but were met with genuine delight. "You're spoiling us, Victor," Eli teased, biting into a bagel. Ethan, more reserved, offered a quiet thanks, his eyes scanning Grayson for motive. Grayson sat beside them, the city's clamor fading, replaced by the twins' stories of school, dreams, and their mother's unwavering love. "Mom made us pancakes yesterday," Eli said, crumbs on his chin. "She was up all night, but she still danced with us." Ethan nodded, adding, "She's teaching us to fix things like Grandpa did." Grayson listened, captivated by their pride and Claire's resilience. He pictured her, exhausted yet dancing, a woman who turned scarcity into joy. "She sounds remarkable," he said, his voice soft. Eli beamed. "She is. Says we're her team." Grayson's heart ached. The word team, a reminder of his own solitary existence. His empire built for no one. As days turned to weeks, Grayson's bond with the twins deepened. He learned Ethan's favorite constellation was Orion, and Eli dreamed of designing a flying car. They argued over whether Mars or Jupiter was cooler, their laughter a melody Grayson hadn't known he craved. He shared bits of his world, stories of building skyscrapers. The thrill of a deal, careful to keep it light, not wanting to overshadow their reality. "You built that?" Eli asked, pointing to a distant tower. Grayson nodded, but the pride he once felt was muted, eclipsed by the twins' warmth. One morning, Grayson brought hot chocolate, the steam curling in the chilly air. Ethan hesitated, his eyes cautious. "We're okay, Victor. We brought soup." Eli nudged him, whispering, "It's just cocoa." Ethan relented, taking a sip, and Grayson saw a flicker of trust. "Your mom teach you to be careful?" he asked gently. Ethan nodded. "She says kindness isn't always free." Grayson's throat tightened, struck by Claire's wisdom, passed down through her sons. "She's right," he said. "But sometimes it's just kindness." Ethan studied him, then smiled, a small victory. Their conversations grew deeper, touching on hopes and fears. Ethan confessed worrying about Grandpa's health. Eli admitted he missed having a dad. Grayson listened, his usual detachment replaced by a need to be present. He began to see the twins not as a curiosity, but as a mirror, reflecting a life he might have lived, one rooted in connection, not conquest. His penthouse, once a sanctuary, now felt like a cage, its silence mocking the laughter he found on these steps. As the twins packed their thermos, Grayson asked, "Same time tomorrow?" Eli saluted. "Bring donuts." Ethan smirked, and they vanished into the crowd. Grayson lingered, the hot chocolate cup warm in his hand, its weight grounding him. The Willis Tower loomed, but its shadow no longer defined him. The twins had cracked his armor, revealing a longing for something real, a bond, a purpose. He didn't know where it would lead, but for the first time in years, he felt alive, tethered to two boys and their unshakable spirit. Victor Grayson's mornings with Ethan and Eli had become his anchor, their laughter and stories a counterpoint to his empty penthouse. But a nagging unease grew, a sense that their struggles were not just fate but a failure he hadn't yet grasped. One evening, in his office overlooking Chicago's twinkling skyline, a comment from his assistant, Margaret, sparked a revelation. "Funny coincidence," she said, flipping through old HR files. "A Claire Thompson was in our intern program years ago. Dropped off suddenly. Same last name as those boys you mentioned." Grayson's pulse quickened, the name a key to a lock he hadn't known existed. He pulled Claire's file, its pages clinical and sparse. A grainy photo showed a young woman, early 20s, with determined eyes and a tight smile, her intern badge clipped to a blazer. She'd been promising sharp, creative, assigned to a high-stakes marketing campaign. But the file ended abruptly. Terminated, failure to deliver project. No details, no exit interview. Just a bureaucratic dismissal. Grayson's memory stirred, fragments of that year surfacing. The campaign had been chaotic, reassigned amid corporate reshuffling. A data error, blamed on an intern, had cost a client's trust. Someone had to fall, and Claire, the newest, was the scapegoat. Grayson's stomach churned as he pieced it together. The error wasn't Claire's. It traced to a senior manager's oversight, one he'd signed off on without scrutiny. The decision to fire her was meant to be temporary, a placeholder until the truth surfaced. But the machine moved on. Claire was erased, her dreams collateral damage in his empire's churn. He imagined her then, young, humiliated, returning to a cramped apartment. Perhaps learning she was pregnant with the twins soon after. The weight of his negligence settled like lead in his chest. He cross-referenced records, confirming Claire Thompson was the twins' mother. Her address, a modest walk-up in Englewood, matched Ethan's mention of their 15-block trek. Grayson pictured her now, older, worn by night shifts and laundry loads, yet raising boys who shared apples with pride. The twins' resilience, their refusal to be diminished, was her legacy, and he'd played a role in her hardship. The realization wasn't just guilt. It was a call to accountability, a demand to face the ripples of his past. Grayson closed the file. Claire's photo burned into his mind. He saw Ethan's cautious eyes, Eli's bright grin, and understood their strength as a defiance of the system that failed their mother. His office, with its mahogany desk and city view, felt like a confession booth, exposing his complicity. He built towers on the backs of people like Claire, never pausing to see the cost. The twins had brought her back into focus, not as a name in a file, but as a woman whose life he'd altered. As midnight struck, Grayson sat in the dim light, the file on his desk a silent accusation. He thought of the twins on the Willis steps, their laughter a beacon. He couldn't undo the past, but he could act now. The seed of redemption took root, fragile but insistent, urging him to make amends, not with money, but with presence, with repair. Claire and her boys deserved more than his ignorance. They deserved his effort. He resolved to return to the steps, not as a bystander, but as a man ready to right a wrong. The truth about Claire's dismissal haunted Victor Grayson, her face in the HR file a constant rebuke. Ethan and Eli's laughter, once a comfort, now carried the weight of his past negligence. He couldn't erase the years Claire lost, but he could act, not with grand gestures, but with quiet, meaningful steps. Determined to atone, Grayson began researching, his office a hub of late-night calls and emails. He contacted a non-profit aiding single mothers, securing a scholarship for Claire to resume her education. Her marketing dreams rekindled. For their grandfather, he arranged discreet medical funding, ensuring his lung treatments were covered without burdening the family. Each morning, Grayson returned to the Willis Tower steps, his bond with the twins anchoring his resolve. He brought muffins, sat with Ethan and Eli, and listened to their stories, careful not to reveal his actions. "Mom's been humming lately," Eli said one day, crumbs on his lips. "She's taking night classes." Ethan nodded, pride in his eyes. "Grandpa's breathing better, too." New machine. Grayson's heart lifted, the impact of his efforts tangible, though he stayed silent, letting their joy wash over him. Their smiles, untainted by his guilt, were a fragile gift he vowed to protect. Behind the scenes, Grayson worked tirelessly, leveraging his network to ease the family's burdens. He connected Claire with a career counselor, ensuring her classes aligned with job opportunities. For the twins, he funded a science camp Ethan loved and an art program for Eli, their dreams given room to grow. He kept his involvement anonymous, fearing it might taint their trust. The twins' chatter grew brighter, their worries lighter, and Grayson felt a shift, not absolution, but purpose. His penthouse, once a sterile refuge, now held notes and drawings from the boys. Small tokens of a connection he hadn't earned but cherished. One chilly morning, as they shared muffins, Ethan squinted at Grayson. "You're around a lot, Victor." "Why?" The question, innocent yet piercing, caught Grayson off guard. He paused, choosing truth over deflection. "You boys remind me what matters," he said, his voice low. "Family, dreams, sticking together." Eli grinned. "Like us and Mom?" Grayson nodded, his throat tight. "Exactly." Ethan studied him, then offered a rare smile, a bridge of trust forming. Grayson felt the weight of his atonement lighten, replaced by a commitment to show up, not just for them, but for the man he wanted to be. Grayson's actions extended beyond the family. He reviewed his company's HR policies, uncovering other overlooked dismissals, and implemented reforms to prevent such errors. Claire's story became a catalyst, a reminder that his wealth could build more than towers, it could restore lives. Yet, he knew the twins and Claire were the heart of his change. Their resilience, their love, had shown him a path to redemption, one step at a time. He thought of Claire, studying late, and the twins, dreaming big, and felt a quiet pride, not in his deeds, but in their strength. As the twins packed their things, waving as they left, Grayson lingered on the steps, the city's pulse steady around him. The Willis Tower loomed, but its shadow felt less oppressive. His atonement was incomplete, a journey, not a destination, but each act brought him closer to the twins' world, a world of love, not ledgers. He knew he'd return tomorrow, driven by a promise to make things right. Victor Grayson's secret efforts to support Claire and her family brought him quiet purpose, but the truth couldn't stay hidden forever. One evening, as he reviewed scholarship documents in his office, a sharp knock broke his focus. Claire Thompson stood in the doorway, her cleaning uniform wrinkled from a long shift, her eyes blazing with a mix of anger and resolve. Margaret, his assistant, hovered nervously behind, mouthing an apology. Claire's presence, unannounced and commanding, filled the room with an electricity Grayson hadn't felt since his toughest boardroom battles. "We need to talk," she said, her voice steady but edged with steel. Grayson rose, gesturing to a chair. But Claire remained standing, her hands clenched. "You're Victor Grayson," she said, not a question. "The one helping my boys, paying for my classes, my father's care." Grayson nodded, caught off guard by her directness. "I am. I wanted to help," she cut him off, her voice rising. "Help? You think money fixes what you did? I know who you are. You fired me 10 years ago. Let me take the fall for your company's mistake." The accusation landed like a blow, her words stripping away his carefully built defenses. Grayson's mind raced. Claire's HR file flashing before him, her young, determined face, the dismissal he'd overlooked. "Claire, I didn't know," he began, but she stepped closer, her eyes locking onto his. "Didn't know? I was 22, pregnant, and you erased me. I lost everything, my dreams, my future, because you didn't care enough to check." Her voice trembled. Not with weakness, but with the weight of years carried alone. Grayson felt the room shrink, Chicago's skyline a distant blur beyond the glass. He'd faced lawsuits and rivals, but Claire's raw truth was a force he couldn't counter. "I'm sorry," he said, the words inadequate but sincere. "I was careless, and you paid the price. I'm trying to make it right." Claire's laugh was sharp, bitter. "Right? You think scholarships and medical bills erase a decade of struggle? My boys grew up in a world you helped create." She paused, her breath uneven, then softened slightly. "But they love you. Ethan trusts you, and Eli thinks you're a hero. That's why I'm here, not for me, but for them." Grayson's throat tightened, the twins' faces vivid in his mind. Ethan's cautious smile, Eli's bright grin. "They're why I'm doing this," he said, his voice low. "I saw them on those steps, sharing an apple, and it woke me up. You raised them to be strong, Claire, stronger than my mistake. I want to be part of their light, not their shadow." Claire studied him, her anger giving way to a wary curiosity. "You don't get to decide that," she said. "But you're trying. That's something." The silence that followed was heavy but not hostile, a bridge forming between them. Claire exhaled, her shoulders easing. "If you're in their lives, you're in for real. No halfway." Grayson nodded, a vow in his eyes. "I'm in." Claire turned to leave, pausing at the door. "They're my world. Don't forget that." As she walked away, Grayson sat, the confrontation a turning point. Claire's strength, her forgiveness, deepened his resolve. The twins' trust, her reluctant acceptance, were gifts he'd earn, not buy, in a bond forged through accountability and respect. The confrontation with Claire marked a shift for Victor Grayson, her words carving a path toward a deeper commitment. No longer a bystander, he embraced his role in Ethan and Eli's lives, not as a benefactor, but as a mentor, a presence they could rely on. Mornings on the Willis Tower steps evolved into afternoons at their Englewood apartment, where Grayson helped with homework or fixed a leaky faucet, his tailored suits swapped for jeans. The twins' laughter filled the modest space, their trust in him a quiet victory. Claire, though guarded, allowed his presence, their shared glances carrying unspoken gratitude and mutual respect. Grayson attended Ethan's science fair, beaming as the boy explained his model of the solar system, Orion's stars prominent. For Eli, he cheered at an art showcase, where a superhero sketch, dedicated to Victor, our friend, hung proudly. These moments, small yet profound, wove Grayson into their world. He learned Claire's favorite coffee order, shared stories of his own childhood, and listened as she spoke of her marketing classes, her dreams reigniting. The twins called him Vic, a nickname that felt like a badge of belonging. Earned through presence, not power. One Saturday, Grayson took the twins to the Adler Planetarium, Ethan's eyes wide at the star displays, Eli imagining alien battles. As they sat by Lake Michigan, Ethan asked, "Vic, why do you hang out with us?" Grayson paused, the lake's waves a steady rhythm. "You and Eli, your mom, you're real. You remind me what I forgot. Family isn't what you have. It's who you choose." Eli grinned. "So we're your family?" Grayson nodded, his voice thick. "If you'll have me." The twins tackled him in a hug, their laughter sealing the bond. Claire's trust grew, her initial wariness softening into partnership. They planned a surprise for the twins' 10th birthday, a picnic in Grant Park, with Claire's father, now stronger, joining them. Grayson pushed the grandfather's wheelchair, the old man's stories of fixing cars sparking Eli's imagination. Claire watched, her smile a quiet acknowledgement of Grayson's place in their lives. They weren't a traditional family, no shared last names or old photos, but their connection was unshakable, built on choice and effort, not obligation. Grayson's life transformed beyond the family. He mentored other young interns at his company, ensuring no one faced Claire's fate again. His penthouse, once silent, now hosted the twins' sleepovers, their drawings taped to the fridge. He learned to thread a needle for Eli's torn hoodie, to pack Ethan's lunch with a note, small acts that grounded him. The twins taught him joy, Claire taught him resilience. Together, they showed him that family wasn't a title but a promise, renewed daily through presence and care. As summer faded, Grayson joined the twins and Claire for a movie night. Sprawled on their worn couch, Ethan leaned against him, Eli's head on Claire's lap, their grandfather chuckling at the screen. The room, cramped and cluttered, felt like home, a home Grayson hadn't known he needed. Chicago's skyline glowed outside, but the light in that apartment, born of laughter and trust, was brighter. He looked at the twins, at Claire, and knew this chosen family was his redemption, his purpose, a legacy worth more than any tower he'd built. Chicago's summer sun bathed Grant Park in golden light, the city's skyline a dramatic backdrop for a community festival celebrating local youth. Ethan and Eli, now 10, stood on a wooden stage, their faces flushed with excitement. Victor Grayson sat in the front row, Claire beside him, her father in his wheelchair, his breathing steadier thanks to new treatments. The crowd, neighbors, teachers, friends, buzzed with anticipation as the twins prepared to speak, their voices set to honor those who'd shaped their year. Grayson's heart raced, a mix of pride and humility, knowing the boys had chosen him for their tribute. Ethan stepped to the microphone, his usual reserve replaced by a steady confidence. "We're here to thank someone special," he said, his voice clear over the park's hum. Eli, grinning beside him, added, "He's not our dad, but he's our Vic." The crowd chuckled, and Grayson's throat tightened, the nickname a testament to their bond. Ethan continued, "Vic saw us on the Willis Tower steps, sharing an apple. He didn't just pass by, he stayed. He helped our mom go back to school, got Grandpa's medicine, and showed us we could dream big." Eli took over, his energy infectious. "Vic's at our science fairs, our art shows. He fixes stuff with us, like Grandpa taught Mom. He's family. Not because he has to be, but because he chose us." The crowd murmured, touched by the twins' sincerity. Grayson glanced at Claire, her eyes glistening, her hand squeezing his briefly. The twins' words wove their story into the city's fabric, a tale of kindness, redemption, and chosen family, born from a single moment under a skyscraper's shadow. The twins stepped back, and the crowd erupted in applause, some wiping tears. Ethan and Eli beckoned Grayson to the stage, their grins wide. He hesitated, and used to such public vulnerability, but Claire's nod urged him forward. As he climbed the steps, the twins hugged him, their small arms fierce. Grayson faced the crowd, his usual eloquence replaced by raw emotion. "These boys," he said, voice breaking, "they changed me. Their strength, their mom's courage, it's the real Chicago. I'm honored to be their Vic." The festival continued, but the moment lingered. A pinnacle of their journey. Grayson, Claire, and the twins joined the crowd, sharing lemonade and stories. Their grandfather laughed as Eli reenacted his speech, the old man's eyes bright with pride. Chicago's skyline glowed, its towers, once Grayson's legacy, now a backdrop to a deeper one. The twins' tribute wasn't just gratitude, it was a declaration that their bond, forged through struggle and choice, was unbreakable, a light no city shadow could dim. As dusk settled, the family sat on a blanket, the twins debating which constellation shone brightest. Grayson looked at them, at Claire, and felt a completeness he'd never known. His penthouse, his wealth, paled against this, a family built on trust, not transactions. The festival's music faded, but the twins' voices, their laughter, carried into the night, a melody of hope. Grayson knew this moment, this chosen family, was his true redemption. A legacy etched not in steel but in the hearts of two boys and their fearless mother, forever part of Chicago's vibrant pulse. The story of Ethan, Eli, Claire, and Victor Grayson reveals a profound truth. True wealth lies not in what we possess, but in the connections we forge and the courage to right past wrongs. A single apple, shared on Chicago's steps, sparked a journey from isolation to belonging, showing that kindness, however small, can unravel secrets and rebuild lives. Grayson's redemption wasn't in his wealth, but in his choice to stay, to listen, to act, not out of guilt, but love. The twins' resilience, Claire's strength, taught him that family is built through presence, not blood, and that mistakes, when faced, can become bridges to hope. This tale reminds us that every encounter holds potential, a chance to see, to heal, to choose love over indifference. In a world of towering ambitions, it's the quiet acts, sharing, listening, showing up, that create legacies that endure. We all carry moments where we can pause, notice, and act. Like Grayson, we can choose to see the Ethans and Ellis in our lives, to mend what's broken, to build families of choice. Let this story inspire you to seek those moments, to share a kindness that ripples beyond the moment. Your actions, no matter how small, can change a life, rewrite a story, light up a city's heart. Share your story of kindness in the comments. When did a small act change your life or another's? Your voice matters, weaving you into our community of storytellers. Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications for more tales of human connection that inspire change. Let's build a world where no one walks alone, where every apple shared sparks a legacy of love.